Good morning, security gang, and welcome back to the CyberHub Podcast. James Azar here. I'm the host of the show. I'm also a Chief Information Security Officer by trade. Thank you all for tuning in this morning. We've got a packed show Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026. The Middle East is on fire, and so is the cyber world. Today's show will primarily, for the first part of it, focus on the U.S.-Israeli airstrikes and war on Iran and the cyber consequences, as well as the preparation we all need to make as cybersecurity practitioners. As I think the time frame for this one's going to go 4 to 5 weeks, maybe a little bit longer. It's quite unsure right now, but what we do know is people are picking sides, and it's gonna get ugly, folks. So let's talk about that on today's show. We'll also be talking about how that's being fully mirrored in cyberspace and the trading of cyber blows. The UK DHS are also warning of spillover risks. Ransomware is still hammering universities and entertainment giants. And we've got fresh 0 days tied to APT28 and Chrome Gemini's AI assistant. All of that on just this lowly Tuesday show. Who would have thunk it? But it's here. All right, join me for a coffee cup. Cheers to power us through this morning's show. I've got my double espresso in that clear cup that shows you that beautiful line of foam right there. And that line of foam is the difference between good and bad espresso. It means that the bean was squeezed through the machine so perfectly that it generated that perfect foam, that crema, that natural crema. This isn't milk. This isn't something that a barista had to orchestrate. When you don't get this in a coffee shop, it's primarily two reasons. They're not using the right bean, and they don't clean their coffee machine. I've got several machines here where I grind my own beans. I clean those machines religiously, run through the pipes like the whole nine. It's a mess. Coffee cup cheers, y'all. For those that say I should open a coffee shop, no, won't do it. All right. CyberHubPodcast.com. Catch exclusive content there. Let's get into the U.S., Israel, and Iran trading cyber attacks. Security Week reporting that pro-Western hackers have caused disruptions inside Iran as the Iran retaliates in cyberspace following, military escalation. This is the classic modern warfare cycle. Missiles fly, and within hours, networks light up. Iranian infrastructure has reportedly experienced disruption from hacktivist-aligned groups, while Iran-linked actors have pushed back with probing and disruptive activity. This is correlating directly with what we've covered in some previous conflicts here on the show, like Russia and Ukraine. Cyber becomes the second front, often less attributable but highly strategic. And there's a few things to take from this one. Escalation from disruptive attacks into destructive infrastructure targeting. You should be activating heightened SOC monitoring thresholds during geopolitical escalation windows to help build more resiliency for your business. So, excuse me. I thought I was over this cough, but it will just not go away. We'll stay here as the UK is now warning of cyber attack risks in the UK, where Prime Minister Keir Starmer, is it Keir Starmer? Is that his name? I don't know. Whatever his name is, he's been kind of pussyfooting around this one. Sorry for the language there. I know this is a kid-friendly show, but you know we're not involved. We're not involved. This is not us. We're not in it. And then he's like, we're gonna. No, Trump called me, said he needs to use our bases. I need to defend British lives, even though the Iranian launched a suicide drone at the British Air Force base in the island of Cyprus, just off the coast of Israel and Lebanon. The UK government's now warning organizations of increased Iranian cyber risk amid the Middle East tensions. This isn't theoretical. Iran cyber units have historically targeted critical infrastructure, financial institutions, and government systems during political flashpoints. The warning does align with broader Five Eye posture shifts whenever Tehran enters kinetic confrontation phases, with the risk being opportunistic targeting of Western infrastructure during this geopolitical distraction. To mitigate this one, you should be conducting immediate external attack surface reviews for internet-facing services, following that up with TTPs and IOCs known from the Iranian groups, and then lining that up to MITRE. That's going to be really, really important as well. Chief of Staff Chairman General Dan Kane talking about some of the attacks yesterday at a press conference, and he kind of laid it all out. The Record is reporting that Iranian sources claiming a cyber attack against U.S. Cyber Command While attribution details remain limited, the messaging is strategic. And if nothing else, just to say we're coming after Cyber Command. It's exaggerated, but it's signaling some of their intent, right? Cyber capability as a psychological leverage. They're getting bombed to smithereens, right? I mean, they lost 45 commanders in the first 3 minutes. Imagine you're the Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of the Shia and Iran. And for 36 years, you've been planning this war with the West to beat the West. You've been playing the game. And a minute into the game, they take you out. You don't even get to watch the rest of it. You're just burning in hell while all of this is happening around you. And you're burning down everything you've spent 47 years building, and spewing hate, killing your people. And this is part of the psychological leverage Iran uses as well. Information operations, they layer them over technical probes. Again, information warfare amplifying or distorting cyber incidents is going to be significant here. And that's something to keep in mind. But all of that is cyber related. And as practitioners, we understand that. We understand that the realm right now, the Iran currently is targeting, primarily what they're trying to do is cause economic damage. One, they're trying to bring Europe into the war. And if you ask me why, very simple. The Europeans don't have a backbone. And because they don't have a backbone, they realize that if they drag Europe into this, the public pressure that they have and the way they're able to command people out on the streets in Europe would put so much pressure that it would try to bring the end to rein in the US and Israel. The US and Israel, on their hand, are saying, like, telling the Europeans, just sit back, relax. We've got this one. We don't need you for it. We're going to win a war. We're not doing this to negotiate. At least that was the message Secretary of War Pete Hegseth said yesterday at the press conference. And all of this brings us into, while we live in the cyber realm, many folks in the CISA role and in the security role also carry the physical security responsibility that comes with it. And this is where the Department of Homeland Security, according to ABC, is warning of potential cyber or even physical attacks following Iranian tensions. And DHS is elevating warning levels. It's signaling credible threat intelligence. This is mirroring previous advisory cycles tied to nation-state retaliation campaigns. We saw what happened over the weekend in Austin, Texas. Obviously, there's increased lone wolf. We saw a professor, I don't know if you saw this, but in Dearborn, Michigan, at a community college in Dearborn, Michigan, talk about, Trump made a mistake. We'll continue preaching Ali Khamenei, how these people got into this country and how they still are here, spewing hate to the country they live in is like that violates your oath of the Constitution of the United States when you were sworn in to be a citizen. And if you violate that oath, then we should be able to pull away your citizenship. It's really that simple. Yes, it's hard to hear it, folks. It's hard to hear it, I know. But it's the truth. And the truth is ugly. The truth is real. And the best lie is the truth. You cannot coexist with people who hate the place they come to and want to transform it to the shithole they came from. If you want to live under Sharia law, plenty of Muslim countries go do that there. In the United States, we have the United States Constitution. That's what we follow. And you either conform to it and adapt, or you don't and you get out. So we ought to increase our situational awareness from a physical perspective part. If something seems out of place, it's out of place. They're likely going to be targeting gatherings, restaurants, critical infrastructure sites. So keep that in mind, folks. Keep that in mind as we can see lone wolf attacks and so much more. All right, Senator Ron Wyden is holding up the CISA nomination, but meanwhile, Nick Anderson has been appointed acting director of CISA. The leadership transition during geopolitical tension do matter. Continuity in federal cyber defense posture, excuse me, in cyber defense posture is critical, particularly when adversaries are actively probing. So Nick Anderson is replacing Madhu Guttamakala, who joined the agency in May of 2025 when he was named deputy director. Guttamakala is leaving to become director of strategic implementations at DHS, which oversees CISA. He's had quite a run in the year. Sean Planky, he's still being held up by Ron Wyden and many others. They're in the Senate. So Nick Anderson kind of taking over to bring some level of normalcy to CISA in this time. Let's move to some data breaches news here. We talked about the University of Hawaii previously. The Cancer Center is now confirming that the ransomware activity and associated data breach universities are remaining prime target due to open research networks and high value data. This is aligning with ongoing ransomware targeting of educational institutions, which often lack segmented infrastructure. The risk here being exposure of student, faculty, and even research data. Implementing network segmentation would have gone a long way to help the University of Hawaii, by the way. But the hacked data did contain social security numbers, driver's license numbers collected from the Hawaii State Department of Transportation, as well as the city and county of Honolulu's voter registration from 1998. This impacts 1.2 million people on one of the most beautiful islands in the country there as well in Hawaii. Madison Square Garden, for their end, are also now finally reporting their breach. This is coming months after a hacker attack on Madison Square Garden, confirming the data breach. Entertainment venues hold customer data, ticketing information, and even employee records, which is valuable for fraud and phishing. The delayed confirmation is highlighting a recurring issue, detection lag, with the risk being delayed breach discovery, increasing regulatory and reputational exposure for the venue. And again, continuous threat hunting within ticketing and CRM systems is key in your business as well. We'll move to this one. APT 28 with taking advantage of CVE 2026 21513. APT 28 is a Russia linked group has been tied to exploitation of a new MSHTML 0-day in Microsoft. The vulnerability impacts how Microsoft renders HTML content, potentially enabling remote code execution through crafted documents. APT 28's targeting history includes government and defense entity. This is consistent with current geopolitical tensions. Again, Russia and China are kind of watching from a side. Venezuela down, Iran on its way down, Cuba next. I mean, they're just getting completely and absolutely isolated. And Trump's leveling the playing field. He's kind of trying to get rid of some of those proxies that were kind of being a pain in the ass, while allowing Russia and China to kind of operate behind the scenes to put Russia and China front and center. Hopefully, once he finishes with Iran, it can bring a swift end to the war between Russia and Ukraine, and then the focusing the remaining of his term on cornering China. So the risk of this type of 0 days document-based exploitation, which delivers initial access into high-value networks. To mitigate this, one should be enforcing strict email attachment sandbox detonation before user delivery and patch CVE 2026 21513. We'll go to Chrome and Gemini AI. A vulnerability, allowed of Chrome's Gemini Live AI Assistant. AI assistants embedded into browsers create new attack surfaces, especially if prompt injection or privilege mismanagement occurs. This continues the theme we've covered repeatedly. AI expands the blast radius. The risk here is AI session hijacking, leading to unauthorized data exposure. Apply the principle of least privilege controls to browser integrated AI tools to mitigate these types of risks. This is coming from our friends over at Palo Alto, who are obviously leading the way with some of this AI research. And finally, a fake Google security page. Attackers created a fake Google security site delivered via a progressive web app, allowing credential and MFA code theft. The technique bypasses user suspicions by mimicking trusted interfaces and persisting like an installed app. This is correlating with the rise of in MFA bypass and phishing kit sophistication that we've tracked here on the show. And the risk being advanced phishing capturing live MFA tokens does lead to that exposure into your environment and the move laterally. To mitigate this one, you should be deploying phisher-resistant MFA such as FIDO2 hardware keys or passwordless device AD join authentication type, where only that device can log in using that authentication method on that said device altogether and really locking it down. Folks, look, geopolitics is so inseparable from enterprise cyber risk at this point. Nation state retaliation, ransomware against universities, AI assistant vulnerabilities, phishing innovation. It's all happening at the same time. And when kinetic tensions rise, cyber pressure does increase. So when AI expands and new services emerge, this is when leadership shifts, adversaries test boundaries, and we have to be better at what we do. We have to stay disciplined, elevate our monitoring during these geopolitical spikes, have good risk identification, understand our attack surface, understand the risk to our business through our partners, our supply chain, and so much more. We should be patching aggressively, segmenting smartly, and never assume that AI features are harmless convenience tools, but rather they are significant to our environment. That's it for our show this morning. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern with all the latest. Until then, have a great rest of your day, y'all, and most importantly, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.